All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to it's been a long time since we've done one of these, but welcome to my photography masterclass. And great to see so many of you checking in. So many of you asking questions already in the various chats, which is great. I'll get to those as soon as I can. I have some pre-questions. I see some questions that have just popped in on YouTube. So in case you haven't guessed, this is a Ask Me Anything. That doesn't mean I can answer everything, but you can certainly ask. And I will do my best to try and answer your questions as best as I can, and when possible, even demonstrate how to do whatever it is you're asking. And some things I may have to say I don't know. Some things I may have to say, yeah, that would take a long time to try and to put together to answer and demo. Others I might have to take, and say, hey, we'll just have to get back with you offline and try and figure it out. It's not tech support really, but it's kind of like just ask questions. So if I can answer it, I absolutely will. If I can't, I apologize for not being able to. All right. So with that said, that's pretty much it. If you're watching this on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and what's the last one? I forgot. Twitch. Yeah, that was it. If you're watching it over there, great. You can hang out over there. Today I'm going to do a better job of trying to look at both chats since it is a Q&A. So I see a bunch of questions, like I said, already coming from YouTube and Facebook. And I see people over on Behance at b.net/Adobe Live, which is usually the main chat that I look at. So for whatever reason, because I don't think I can see Twitter questions, and I don't know if I can see Twitch questions. But if it looks like I'm not seeing your question, head over to b.net/Adobe Live. Just sign in with your Adobe ID, and I'll be happy to see your question and answer it there. Also, there's moderators on that side as well, and a community over there that may be able to answer your question even before I get to it. All right, so with that said, b.net/Adobe Live, or hang out where you are. I can see Facebook and YouTube so far. So I see Crystal, for example, finally got a chance to catch it live. Great. And welcome, everybody. All right. So I'm going to start with one of the questions that was submitted ahead of time. And it's not a how-to question. It's more of a business question from a photographer. And I'm happy to answer this one. And like I said, I see more questions rolling in. So great. Let's start off with, so he asked, as a hobby photographer without ambitions to work professionally, okay, so a hobbyist, is it financially justifiable to switch to a mirrorless camera? And I'm laughing because, not because the question is silly or anything. I'm laughing because we always find a way to justify what we want. That doesn't mean it's financially justifiable. So anyway, if you want a mirrorless camera and you're a hobbyist, you're not trying to make a living and you can afford it, go buy one. But the real answer to your question, because when I first read this, I thought it said as a professional, and I was going to answer it totally different. Trying to make a living, but as a hobbyist, that's how we always justify what we want, and that's serious. Like we say, okay, what's it gonna do for us? Is it gonna make my photos any better? No, probably not. You're a photographer. You're the one that's making the photos better. But is it going to make you maybe your camera's older? Is it going to be faster? Is it going to get, you're going to get sharper images from some of the newer mirrorless lenses, which are super tack sharp? Are you going to get, so basically, is it lighter for you to carry? Because I know that's a concern for people that are carrying bigger, older, heavier cameras. So you have to ask yourself as a hobbyist, are those things worth spending the money for it? Because when I made the switch, kind of the same thing. I wasn't using it to make money, but I looked at it as, okay, I'm on the Nikon side, so I had a Nikon D850, great camera, love that camera, one of the best cameras I ever owned. And I also had got a mirrorless camera. I got the Z6 at the time because I wanted to dabble in mirrorless. And then what I found, and what I had planned on initially was, okay, I'm going to use the D850 in studio. I'm going to take the Z6 with me because it's lighter and smaller. And then I look up one day, months later, I wasn't using the D850 anymore. I was just using the Z6, and I think I'd upgraded to a Z6 II by then. And so it just became like I don't really need the old one anymore because I'm never using it. I just got so used to shooting with the mirrorless. So I wrote a blog post about it. I sold all my DSLR gear, all my lenses, all the stuff, and I replaced everything with mirrorless equivalents. And now I'm on a Z8, so I love that camera. It's basically the equivalent of the D850. So, and most people would say that. So anyway, I'm happy now. Did I need to do it? No. Is it making my photos any better? No, not really. So it's really a personal choice. It's up to you. Ooh, I love that question too that just came in from LinkedIn. All right. Anyway, so you'll have to do that. So you're saying now, what are the advantages of a mirrorless camera compared to a DSLR? I kind of mentioned them. Smaller, lighter. The lenses, if you get the native lenses, because I used an adapter first to use my old lenses. The native lenses I love way better than the original older DSLR lenses from a size perspective and a sharpness perspective. Kind of it. Like, I can't think of too many mirrorless advantages over DSLR other than the things that are obvious. Like I said, smaller, lighter, newer chips, newer sensors, better lenses. Because the lenses for me, mirrorless, are definitely better than the old DSLR ones. That's pretty much it. Okay, so I saw a question pop in over here. Actually, two questions. I already answered this one. Are the lenses between the Z and the 850 interchangeable? Yes, if you get the adapter. So typically when we think adapters, we think, oh God, it's going to lower the quality. It's going to make it so I can't do something. The adapter is not as good as native. That's not true when it comes to a mirrorless adapter that's using the lens. It's actually, there's no glass in it. When you look through the adapter, you're looking straight into the mirror or to the mirrorless body. So it's an electronic adapter. That's it. No disadvantage whatsoever other than an adapter. So I lived with the adapter for several months or years even before I switched all my lenses out, before I sold all the old stuff. So yeah, the adapter works great. I don't think you'll ever notice a difference. Like, you wouldn't know that you were using the adapter versus using the native lens on the camera. All right, but that wasn't the LinkedIn question I saw. I saw another one. Oh, where was it? It wasn't about lens. Oh, there it is. So this one's also from LinkedIn. What's your say on sharing photos to public domain without monetization? What do you mean by that? Like, sharing them? What do you mean by to public domain? Like giving them away? Like, that's, if you feel generous and want to give your photos away, great. If you're asking publishing them online, like on your portfolio, on social media, if that's what you mean by public domain, yeah, we all share our photos. I used to, back in the early days, oh my God, someone's going to steal my photos, or I watermark them and so forth and so on. I finally got away from that. If I share a photo, I share it. If someone steals it, they were going to steal it anyway, and they weren't going to pay me anyway. So that was my attitude about photo theft. And I would love it if a business would steal my photos, because then I could actually go after them. But that hasn't happened yet. So I don't mind sharing photos, but if you mean just put them out in the public domain and say, here you go, you can have them. No, I don't do that. I don't see any reason to be that generous with my photos. All right, let's see. Oh, here's a good one from Facebook. Are the pics I use for generative fill stored on Adobe's cloud? No, they're not. That was easy. No, we don't keep your photos. Your photos uploaded to do whatever it needs to do for the generative fill. Then immediately, once it's back to you, it's gone off Adobe servers. We don't keep it. We also don't train from your photos that you're using generative fill. I know that question comes up too. You're welcome for the early trainings. Now let me go back up to the top of the list, because I'm like dabbling in the questions. Hang on, which mouse is which? Okay, I'm dabbling in the questions that were just scrolled. Okay, so let me start at the top of the list. When I add a picture to a picture, I can see a box around it. I don't see people like you and others having that problem. What am I doing wrong? It depends on the box. Do you mean a selection box, or do you mean you physically see pixels that are on the photo? So that, it depends on what you mean. Now, if you mean, and I think I may know what you have turned on. Let me open up a couple photos, or let me get Photoshop. I was charging my mouse. Let me unplug the right one. Let me get Photoshop open here, and I can show you what I think you mean. Let me pop over to Photoshop, and now let me show you. Okay, so I have Photoshop, and I'm going to pop over or drag over just another photo. And yeah, there's a blue box around it that lets me scale it, move it around, because I'm still in free transform. And once I accept it, then that box goes away. So that could be one of the things you're running into, but I think the thing that you're running into is a setting, and it's up here in the upper left-hand corner, and it's called Show Transform Controls. If you have that checked, then you're always going to see the box. So if it's selected, if that layer is selected, you're going to see the box because you have that turned on. If I turn that off, then the box goes away. So check the checkbox. And again, if you're getting pixels, that's a whole different issue. But yeah, that box is a feature. In other words, it just allows people to not to have to always choose free transform. They can have that checked, and whenever they choose a layer, they're automatically in free transform. Whenever they accept it, they're automatically out of free transform. But as long as that layer is selected, they're in free transform. So that's an option that you may have turned on. Okay, next. Can I blur the background with Photoshop AI, and how? No. Because and people, this is a common question I get in general when people want to use generative fill to retouch, and you're asking kind of the same thing. You want to use generative fill to change something that's already there. So, for example, if I were to, I'm just trying to find a photo with a background here. If I were to open up this photo, and there's a background. It's already blurred. But let's say I select the subject, and then I invert the background once it selects the subject. So now the background's selected. And yeah, I can use generative fill, but generative fill, if I say blur or something else, it's whatever's selected, it's generating new pixels. So it doesn't act like a filter. It doesn't say change what's already there. It's always generate new whatever you have selected. So whatever I type in my prompt, it's going to be a new background. It's not going to be this background blurred or this background changed to a different color or whatever. Does that make sense? So same thing when people were asking, let me deselect. When people were asking about retouching, like, okay, I want to select her lips and change them to blue or green or a different color. Well, if you do that with generative fill, you're getting a new set of lips. It's not going to be her lips anymore. Yeah, it will give you some blue lips and some green lips and some whatever lips, but they won't be the original lips because generative fill always generates a new set of pixels. And yeah, it adds it to a layer. If I'm reading Reverb Mike's answer to this or something else. So no, you can't use generative fill any way that I can think of to blur an existing background. It's going to give you a new background that's blurred. All right, next up. Can I make a shot of a flower look like a watercolor painting with Photoshop AI? Same thing. If you generate using Photoshop AI, you're making a new flower. So, because again, it doesn't work like a filter, it's generating new pixels. Now, if you just want to make something look watercolor, there's all kinds of watercolor techniques. And there's oil painting, there's all kinds of filters that will give you that, but not generative AI, because generative AI says, oh, you want a watercolor flower? Here's a new watercolor flower. It's not the one you had. All right. I'm looking to make an image look like shattered glass. Do you have any suggestion on where I should look? Maybe a plugin. I had a technique way back in the day that I've done a couple times to make something look like shattered glass. I'm sure there are probably filters that'll do it too. And I'm sure someone has a technique. If you Google or YouTube shattered glass technique, I'm sure you're going to get 100 videos that show you how to do it. Other than that, I don't have like a go here and you're going to find it in this particular spot. But yeah, just go to YouTube and say Photoshop shattered glass effect, and I'm sure you're going to get a ton of results, because that's it's a common thing that people do. And most likely they're going to show you results that don't require you to buy anything. They're just going to show you the technique and how to do it in Photoshop. Sorry, I don't have one personally. All right, we did that one. Hello in Maryland. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, are the pics? Yep, we did that one already. I don't do private training. I get that question all the time. I literally just don't have the bandwidth to do anything other than what I'm already doing. I apologize. Maybe in retirement, I'll have time to do private training. Hello in Iraq. Hope everything's going great over there. We did the sharing thing already. You scooted over to Behance. Cool. We did the lenses thing. I'm just scrolling through and make sure I didn't miss anything. I had and have deleted the Photoshop beta. A discount where I had the disconnect where Lightroom would show the picture. Now that I have Photoshop 24, the disconnect is back. Is it a bug or a settings issue? Okay, so this person says, I have had the Photoshop beta. They had the disconnect where a Lightroom file would open Photoshop, but wouldn't actually show the picture. Now that I have Photoshop 2024, the disconnect is back. Is it a bug or a settings issue? That kind of did get fixed already, so I'm surprised you're still having it. I would just make sure that, worst case scenario, that you do both uninstall Lightroom Classic and Photoshop, and then reinstall them both from Lightroom, from Creative Cloud. And that should do it. I'm not having the issue anymore. I was having the issue, definitely with the beta, along with lots of other people, but I haven't had it since the release versions of both updated Lightroom and updated Photoshop have come out. All right. Pixel domain or public domain like Pexels, Pixabay, and Unsplash. Never heard of them, so no, I have never uploaded content to those. Also, still looking for shortcut to all photos in Lightroom Classic. I'm assuming you mean Michael Montgomery. I'm assuming you mean a keyboard shortcut. That's one of the things that's been a pet peeve of mine, that Lightroom Classic does a lot. Photoshop, Illustrator, all the other applications we've had for years have had customizable keyboard shortcuts. So if one was missing or you didn't like one, you could go in and change, make a new set and make your own. Lightroom Classic still doesn't have customizable keyboard shortcuts, so I will bring it up again as a request. Any minimal and cheap setup recommendation for miniature photo shoot? How miniature? We're talking toys, or are we talking just a small setup? So give me a little bit more detail, LinkedIn user. Any minimal and cheap setup recommendation for a miniature photo shoot? Like I said, I have a little softbox right here that's about that big. So I don't know how miniature we're trying to go. Not that setup, Micro Studio setup. Okay, can you give me some dimensions? Because micro to me is very small. Micro to you could be, I want to shoot a portrait in a small area. So again, give me kind of what you want to shoot. That will help. Okay, this is a good one that comes up. I created Christmas cards in Firefly, enhanced them in Photoshop. Can I sell them as a print and digital product? You absolutely can. So when Firefly was in beta, we kept telling people you can't use it for commercial use. Once it came out of beta, you could use it for commercial use. And that's an example of commercial use. In other words, I created an image. I want to put that image on something and sell that something. Christmas cards, t-shirts, whatever. Yes, you can do that. That is an example of commercial use that you can do. The TED Talk was great. Craig, thanks for asking. Thanks, Michael, for the congratulations on the TED Talk. Die-cast cars. Okay, now we're talking. Die-cast cars, about 5 to 8 inch products. that's what I meant by how small. I don't have necessarily a recommendation. One thing I will throw out there that I do like as a product. So I do have a recommendation. I always forget the name of these things. Hang on, let me go to my photography guide. Hold on. Let me switch off you guys for a second. I have it in my guide. I just can't think of the name of the product. Hold on. It is a set of backdrops, and they even have a table, and it's great for shooting small stuff like what you're talking about. And if I could think of the name of it, I would say it right off the bat. But I always brain freeze on this particular product. I'm also brain freezing on the link to my guide here too. But give me 1 second. I'll be able to find it right now. I brought up my notes. It's in my gear guide. There it is. There it is. Victoria just popped in as I was bringing up the gear guide. It's Victoria. I'm sure she's like, because she uses this all the time. It's called Replica Studio. So Replica Studio is and I'm trying to bring up the picture here now that I know the name. There it is. Okay, so let's switch back. So Replica Studio is this table. You've seen, in my other show, my photography show, I used this last time in the last episode to shoot. So this is an actual table on a tripod stand on wheels. They sell the whole thing. Or you can just buy the backdrops if you already have your own table to put it on. I like this one because it's mobile and size specifically for these backdrops. They sell dozens different kinds that you can put up. You can just have a solid white one, black one, whatever colors you want, whatever pictures on them you want. And these little gray areas over here, these little bluish areas, that's where you can also stand them. So typically you would have one in the back, one on the bottom. But now with the table, you can have them on the sides as well. And that way you can kind of create a little miniature studio that you can light any way you want and even shoot with your phone and shoot small things, products, the miniature cars, so forth and so on. So with that, I would start there and look at that. They're not the cheapest solution in the world. So you said, I think you mentioned earlier, inexpensive. These are not inexpensive, but it might put you on the right track. Other than that, I would say even check out Amazon for just a very simple, small, lighted softbox. Like I said, I've got one over here. Let me see if I can bring it closer. Yeah, I can bring this. I don't know if I can bring it closer and have it lit. Oh, I just unplugged it, so it won't be lit. But anyway, this particular softbox this is the smallest one I have, and I do. And it's got a little LED light and plugs in via USB, and you can put small things in that. This is the smaller one. I have one that's about 2 feet by 2 feet over on the other side, and that might be better for the cars because it's a little bit bigger, but they sell them. I mean, you just keep getting bigger, just how big you want. So it depends on what you're looking for. All right. Okay. I think I got all of these questions. Now let's head over here and let's head into some of these. Okay. I know I got another one over here from Nicholas as well. Mainly use the phone. Do you still use Dropbox for? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Question is, do I still use Dropbox? Because I've talked about this for years. I used to store my Lightroom Classic catalog in Dropbox. And I would always give the warning, don't do this if you're forgetful or if you're, because there's a whole thing about keeping it, knowing that it's synced before you try and open it somewhere else on another computer. So that was the whole problem, that if you didn't do that, then it caused all kinds of issues. I stopped doing it, but not because of that. I stopped doing it because there was a plugin I was using in Lightroom Classic that didn't like the fact that my catalog was in Dropbox or on a shared folder. So I took it out of Dropbox only because of that plugin. I wanted to use that plugin. So the question is, do I still use Dropbox, or basically put my catalog from Lightroom Classic in a shared cloud folder like Dropbox? And the reason I was doing that in the past was so that I could go to my laptop, or from my work laptop to another laptop and open up my catalog, and it would be there because it would sync. The problem with it, if you weren't careful, and it happened to me a couple times, is that before you shut down this computer, make sure you quit Lightroom, make sure Dropbox is finished syncing, shut it down, close it, sleep it, whatever. Then when you head over to the other computer, the other problem was, wake it up, don't immediately launch Lightroom because you got to wait for it to sync. You got to wait for it to sync down to that computer. So what I always warn people, don't do this unless you're going to be super careful every single time, because if you miss one time, you open it too soon before it finishes syncing. You close this one and you didn't let it finish syncing, and then you go open it thinking it's synced. What would happen is it would create this out of sync issue. So now you're opening technically an older catalog that isn't the right one. And it could create more mess for people than it was worth for people that weren't going to be careful. So I always recommend it. Look, this is not for the frail. This is not for the casual user. This is for the person that knows what they're doing, and they are going to take that risk. Other than that, it worked great. I've used it for probably 6-7 years, and it was great in Dropbox for that reason, for being able to open it up on different computers. I don't miss it. Like, it's on one computer now. That computer gets backed up. I don't miss not being able to open it up on the other computer. So I don't do it anymore, to answer that question. Okay, I'm looking through questions. Okay, so Mike Worley says, I have all my Z glass for my Z6 II, but I kept the FTZ adapter, the one I was talking about earlier, because on occasion I rent a lens that doesn't have a Z mount equivalent yet. Yeah, when I said I upgraded all my lenses, there was one I didn't have an equivalent for. I do now, it's coming whenever it ships, but it was the Tamron 150 to 600 millimeter. Not a Nikon brand lens, it was Nikon compatible, but it was the old F mount. So I used the adapter on that lens to shoot that air show that I talked about a while back, because that was the only lens I had that range, 150 to 600. And it was also a lens that, until recently, there was no equivalent. Now Nikon just came out with a 180 to 600. So I sold my 150 to 600, and I pre-ordered the 180 to 600 that I still have not received yet. And it's okay, I'm not shooting air shows every day, so I can be without the lens for now. But that's a good point. I wouldn't get rid of the adapter even if I had all mirrorless lenses. Even when that lens comes, I'll still keep the adapter, because you never know when you're going to run into a lens you want to try, want to use in a pinch that isn't a Z equivalent or isn't Z native. Okay. Jim Allen, you see a solid line. So when you add a photo, I'm assuming this is the guy that was adding a photo to another photo in Photoshop. So let's go back to that. Let's go back to that example. You see a solid line around the photo you add. How are you adding it? Because now that becomes the next question. Because I'm trying to figure out how Photoshop could possibly be adding a line to your photo automatically, just by adding it on top of another photo. It should not do that. In other words, as you can see, I didn't get a line when I added this photo, and I never do. It shouldn't. So let me ask how you're adding it to the other photo. Do you routinely check to see if businesses are stealing your images? No. Lewis Johnson asked, do I routinely check to see if any businesses are using or stealing my images? And if so, how do I do that? There's no way to know. Like, unless you happen to run across your image in a big ad campaign, you will never see it, especially some small business is using it for their social media, some business you never heard of, just selling products you don't deal with. So there is no way to ever know when your photo's being used. And I don't care how much you watermark it. I don't care how much how much metadata you put in. If someone wants to steal your photo, first of all, the first quick, easy way is a screenshot. Then you're going to say, oh, well, it was low resolution. We all know you can bump up the resolution of photos now with all kinds of utilities and even built into Photoshop. You can double the resolution, but with plugins, you can even go higher than double and keep the quality. So you can't know if your photo is being used randomly by somebody or some company unless someone points it out to you or you happen to see it. I don't know of any way to ever track that, because once they leave your computer and go on the internet, they're open to be lifted. Let's put it that way. All right. Okay, so personal question. Have you completely stopped using film / old style photography? If so, how long ago? The answer is yes. I'm just trying to think how long ago. It was in the 90s. I wasn't a big film person. Like, I never developed my own film. I would shoot film and take it to be developed, and I hated it because one of the things that digital gave us was instant, not only gratification, but knowing whether or not you got the shot. You can look at the camera or plug it in right there on your computer and look at it before you leave. With film, you were at the mercy of, I hope it came out. And then when it gets developed, you see if it came out or not, and you had to spend money to find out. So my first digital camera that made me stop using film was a crappy digital camera. It was actually the Apple QuickTake 100. Most of you have never heard of that camera. Apple used to make digital cameras back in the 90s. So the Apple QuickTake 100 was their first digital camera. It was 640 by 480 resolution. The pixels looked bad, especially in low light. It was serial connection, no memory card. You plugged it directly into a Mac back then, and you transfer the images onto your computer. And once I bought one and tried it and used it, I said, I'm done with film, even though the image quality was subpar, because I never wanted to use film in the first place. So I didn't really get into photography until digital came out. And of course, I just kept upgrading to better cameras until I got to a professional level after that. So I was never that into film to begin with. So I left way, way, way back when. Hey, Serge, I'm glad your son liked our wacky selfie picture that we took at the New York event. And any idea if Firefly or GenFill will work better with executing type? What do you mean by executing type? In Firefly, there is a text effect section that you can do that's not in Photoshop. So you can go to the Firefly website and and again, why am I talking when I can show you for the people that don't know? Let me look in because I don't know what's going to pop up. Let me just make sure I'm in the right browser. And when I say that, is sometimes I run beta stuff that you're not allowed to see yet. And where am I? Let's do that. And okay, let's go to the Firefly website. Cool. All right, let's pop back to you. So in the Firefly website, so Generative Fill does now. Oh, and I think I know what you might mean. Like sometimes you generate an image that should have some text on it. Maybe you did a sign, or you did, like, for example, I always generated a picture of a school bus, and the writing on it wouldn't simply say school bus. It would say some weird, maybe not even a language, just random characters. And so if that's what you mean, yeah, that needs to get better, and I've not seen that get better yet. But if you meant text effects, which I can now show you because now I just realized that was probably what you meant, but I can still show you text effects while we're here. You probably meant the other thing. All right, but anyway, So let's take a look at text effects since I opened that can. All right, so when you go to the Firefly website, you can do text to image, which you can do in Photoshop. You can do generative fill, which you can do in Photoshop. But text effects is a Firefly website and Express exclusive. So what it allows you to do is go in and enter text. So I can enter my text here down in the bottom left. Let me get out of the way. So in the bottom left where it says enter text, I'm going to type in a word. Let's see what's in the chat there. I'm going to type in Serge's name. Serge. All right, so now I can describe what I want the Serge text to look like. I want it to look like gold dripping paint. So there's my word Serge, and it's now rendering what gold dripping paint would look like, and that's my word Serge with gold dripping paint. I get 4 variations to choose from, and I can go alter the prompt and change it. I can also choose how much the paint flies away from the text by choosing loose over here. And once that renders out, then the paint splatters should be further away from, okay, yeah, and they're further away from the text. So that's text effects, but I think you meant the other one. All right. Lewis. Somebody's giving him a tip. Generative fill doesn't really know what a football looks like. Well, it depends on, so again, football is a very generic term depending on what country you're from. So football, there's US football, and then there's soccer, and then there's other, football you would call soccer, or you wouldn't call it soccer, but you would call it football in another country. So you probably just need to be more specific as to what type of football you want. American football, for example, or soccer. And it might understand that better. Bad results every time. Okay, so Daniel says, I've tried Gen AI with bad results every time. Can you give me some ideas on how to prompt Gen AI for better results? Well, you got to give me an example of what you're trying to do. Because I don't get bad results all the time, but I may not be trying to do what you're trying to do. So give me an example of what you're trying to generate. Nicholas has confirmed that the Lightroom Classic to Photoshop problem is gone for him too. It's gone for me. So like I said, I would reinstall both Photoshop and Lightroom Classic to see if that cures it for you. And Reverb Mike is also helping Daniel to try and figure out why he's getting bad results. I think the more we use it, the more AI will adapt to our request. We have to be specific, and when it doesn't produce what we need feedback is very important. Absolutely right. CW. Maurice Robinson in the house. All right, welcome. People loving Replica. AI is kind of awful, still kind of awful at all kinds of things, like words, for example. Yep, it's definitely not great for words, at least not what I've seen. Okay. I wanted to add a pickle to an image. Simple words. Okay, so he says, or Daniel says, I wanted to add a pickle to an image. I gave it simple words, then explained what type of pickle I wanted, and never got a pickle. All right, well, let's try it out. I don't like pickles, but let's try it. All right, so let's try an image where we can add a pickle to it. Do we have any food images? If not, we can go get one. I think I might have one over here. We don't have to have a food image, but I think it would just look better. Also, what kind of image were you trying to add it to? Because that might have also confused it if it saw the surrounding and said, I don't know why he'd be adding a pickle here. That's why I was looking for a food image. So you might give us a little bit more detail about the context of adding the pickle image. Adding it to what? Okay, so here we go. Oh, that's a That's one I haven't licensed yet. But anyway, let's try it. This is a top-down view, so this should be interesting. And let's simply make a selection here. And I'm just going to do generative fill. I'm just going to type in the word pickle. I have no idea what I'm going to get. But it looks like a pickle to me. Again, I don't like pickles, but yeah, those look like pickles to me. All right. So let's try pickle slices. Now, that is screwing up. Those aren't slices. Well, I guess they could be, okay, they could be horizontal slices. I mean, vertical slices down the side. So this gets into the, okay, how do I tell it, no, I want them sliced horizontally. Like that gets into the, how would I tell it to do that? Pickle slices, horizontal pickle slices. Let's try that. Because yeah, it's slicing it down the long end. I want it sliced in the middle. Nope. So again, I'm not getting what I'm envisioning because I'm not describing it how it needs to hear what I'm asking for. So that could very well be the issue, is that depending on what you're asking it to do, it just may not understand the context of what you want. And also it could have a lot to do with the selection. So let's turn that one off for example, and let's do this. Let's do a more, instead of a long selection, let's do one that's kind of round. All right, that's definitely not round, but that's more round. All right, pickle slices. And that's giving me more of what I want. So a lot of it has to do with the selection as well. So if you're not, and see, that gave me exactly what I was anticipating. If you are not getting what you want based on the prompt, it may be time to change the selection. So instead of me thinking I'm going to get 7 pickle slices in a row, I had to make a smaller selection to get the pickle slices I wanted. Now I can duplicate them or just make more selections to put them along the plate. But in this case, it was the selection that was throwing it off, because it's saying, hey, you have this really long selection. You want a pickle slice? I want to slice it down the middle and give you a pickle slice. So it's just, a lot of it has to do with the selection too. I remember early on when I was using generative fill and I was trying to put a hat on a person, and I had this big, because she had a lot of hair, so I had this big giant selection in front of her head all the way back, and it was giving me this gigantic hat. It looked really silly. Like it didn't look like any hat that any normal person would wear. And as soon as I made the selection smaller, I started getting the hats that I wanted. So it had nothing to do with the prompt. It had everything to do with the selection. All right. Oh, someone said that looks like more like a cucumber. Well, that one definitely looks more like a pickle. All right, let's go on. I'm looking. I want to see if I can add, or see if I can get any more questions here. Will we see higher resolution output from the generative enhance and fill routines in the near future? Well, it depends on what you mean by near, because everyone's near is a different timeline. But yes, we are hard at work working on higher resolution like we promised. We promised that from day one. And yes. So yes, you will get higher resolution. I don't know if it's going to be near future, depending on what you consider near future. All right, but yes, it is in the works. They're working hard on it. They're trying to get it out as soon as they can. Let's put it that way. A pickle with a cup of coffee doesn't sound very. A pickle with anything doesn't sound very good, dude. I hate pickles. All right. Anyway, next up. Let's pop back over to this chat, see if I missed anything. Next to mine actually watches you. Sitting outside the Mall of Columbus, Georgia, and guy sitting at the table next to me actually watches your videos too. Small world. He's a photographer too. Well, tell him I said hello. Can you use generative fill using a folder containing your own images and backgrounds? Okay, good question. So, can you use generative fill using a folder containing your own images and backgrounds? And this is from Malcolm. Yes and no. Depends on what you're trying to do. This photo I opened, it's a stock photo, but this could have easily been my photo, and I could use generative fill on my own photo. If you're saying, can I upload a photo and have it generate based on that photo, not today, but it's something in the works. So it depends on what you mean by can you use your own photo. So for example, if I go back to the library I was in, and this is my own photo. I took this photo in Milan. That's my photo, and I can use generative fill on it. I've used generative fill in this photo to demonstrate removing all these tourists. So in that case, yes, you can. But if you're saying, hey, I want to train on it, my photo, or I want it to do something based on my photo to generate, then no, we're not there yet, but it's in the works. Let's put it that way. So this is an example I did early on when generative fill first came out. I took this photo of Milan that I didn't get up early enough, and I got there when all the people were there, and I was kind of ticked off. I made the panel anyway, but I just never used it. So generative fill, generate, no prompt because I wanted to actually remove. And it even says avoid using instructions like add, fill, make, change. Instead, just describe what you want. This time I got a black box. I don't know why I got that. And that time I got remnants of people. Oh, these are like the worst ones I've ever seen. Other than that black box, we're okay. Let's generate again. We got a stage, but everything else is pretty clean. So I'd just get rid of that stage manual if I had to. So that's the other thing. If you don't get what you like first time, hit generate. Okay, now we're getting better. Got rid of all the, I don't know where we're getting these remnants from, but there we go. That's what I'm looking for. A nice clean image with none of the people there. And that's what I like about this. It's a couch. All right. Let's see. Also, the recommendation shared useful to help make it cheap as per my basic needs, and advanced is based on more features. Okay. Will we be able to adjust the letter spaces? Okay, good one, Crystal. So text effects in Photoshop, I'm sorry, in Firefly. Right now, they're very limited text controls like kerning, tracking, leading, those kinds of things aren't there, and they should be, and they hopefully will be soon. Again, soon's relative. But yeah, I know they're working on all kinds, and also giving more font choices. We are Adobe, we have thousands of fonts. You should be able to use more fonts than what's there. So all of that is in the works. I'll just put it that way. I can't give you a win. All right. Okay, haven't been able to find it on the Adobe site, but does Adobe Portfolio or Adobe Express web pages count towards your Creative Cloud storage limit? That's a good question. It's a good question. I'm going to say, because don't hold me to this, I don't think so. Because I've never heard anyone say that it did. I don't think so. But that's when I got to go ask. So I will take a note of that myself, and I will go ask that. I don't think so, but I need to. I don't know for 100% sure. So good question, and let me make note of it so that I will be able to go ask that question. So you're asking about Portfolio and Express. Count towards your CC storage. And again, if I had to guess today, I would say no. but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. And hopefully I was right and it is no, but I will find out. Is personalized results only available by subscription? Depends on what you mean by personalized. What do you mean by that? Give me more details on that question. So you asked again. Ask more too of it. Is personalized results in Firefly only available by subscription? Again, personalized? What do you mean by personalized? But Firefly, just so we know, if we go back to Firefly, and I go back to where you could see, if we get out of what I was doing with Surge, and we go to the About, you got, even if you don't pay, you can use Firefly. You get 25 generations a month starting in November for free. No credit card required. You can just do it. So that 25 is the same 25 you would get if you were a paying customer. So when you say personalized, it's no more personalized for a free person or not personalized for a free person as it is for a paid person. You just have less that you can do for free. So they're going to start a counter starting in November for free people that you only get 25 a month. Unless you pay, then you get more. Now, and while we're on this topic, the question came up earlier. So one more, please explain how and he means generative credits. He says how credits work and when you use generative fill. Okay, so let's get this question answered since it's going to take a minute or two to answer it. Okay, so first and foremost, all paid plans include a certain amount of generative credits, anywhere from 25 for free or 100 for paid, on up to 1,000 depending on your plan. Generative credits, think of them as, this is my word, priority credits. So even if I'm paying $4.99 a month and I get my 100 credits and I want to do 101 generations in that month, it's going to let me do it. Because I'm a paid member. The only time we cut you off is if it's free, it's free. You didn't pay anything, so we gave you 25 for free. Enjoy. But if you're a paid member, there's no cutoff, meaning that if you have 250 on the photography plan, you have 1,000 on the all apps plan, you have whatever on whatever plan you're on, once you exhaust those credits, all it simply means is the next time you go do a generation, whether it's in Firefly, Generative Fill, Generative Expand, Illustrator Recolor, whatever it is, that generation might take a little longer because you're no longer in the priority line, you moved into the regular line. So your request will get answered as depending on how busy that regular line is. You may not notice any difference in speed at all. We don't know what the impact will be because we haven't turned off everyone from being able to do it priority. And that doesn't happen until November. So enjoy unlimited priority now, but starting in November, your credits will show up in your account. And every time you hit the generate button, it's not how many results you get, which ones you like, which ones you use, any of that. It's every time you click the button costs you technically one credit, one priority credit. So after your priority credits are up, let's say you only had 250 and you do 1,000 more. You can. They just may not be at the same speed. That's it. So there's no cutoff. Keep creating. You don't have to worry, oh no, I'm about to run out. I better not generate because I need 5 more by the end of the month. Nope, just keep generating. It just may be slower. That's it. Is Generative Fill available in Premiere Pro? It is not. They're feverishly working on putting the generative AI stuff in all of our products. So Premiere is definitely high on the list, but it's not there yet. You said it's a tab in the menu and you can't access it. What tab? You got to be more specific. What tab? What does it say? I don't see anything that says personalization. So I want to answer you. I just don't know what you're talking about. So if you want to send me a screenshot offline, great. Send me a screenshot. I'll try and help you. But I'm not sure what you're asking for. Okay. When CC stops singing. And let me get this question out of the way real quick. So when, and I'll say my goodbyes at the same time, so we're out of time, but this is a big question. When CC stops syncing in February, will that affect my Lightroom photo library? It does not affect anything that you have anything to do with Lightroom. So what they're referring to, you probably got an email that was kind of weirdly worded. I apologize for that, and I hope the person that wrote it isn't listening, but even if they are, I mean it. there is a Creative Cloud files folder. There it is. So this folder on your computer and whatever you have in it, after a certain date will stop syncing. The stuff will still be in it. It just won't sync anymore. That's it. That's the only thing to turn it off. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch, it doesn't affect your Lightroom. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.